Welcome back to TESS'S Cryptids. Today we dive into the mystery of Lake Champlain and its most famous resident, Champy the lake monster.
It's a fascinating lake, you know? It's
Yeah,
this a beautiful 125-mile stretch of water, right? Shared by New York, Vermont, and Canada, and it's this place where history and myth kind of intertwine.
yeah, it's true. And I mean, everyone loves a good monster story, right? There's something like over 300 reported sightings of this
Mm.
thing. It really makes you wonder if there's actually something lurking beneath the surface, not to mention all the tourism it brings in, people hoping to catch a glimpse.
For sure. It adds a whole other layer of intrigue to the region, really intertwined with the local economy in a way that's, yeah, pretty fascinating. But to understand Champy, you really got to go way back, even before the settlers showed up. The Iroquois, the Mohawk tribe specifically, they already had legends of these giant lake serpents living in the water. They called them Anyarkoa.
So the lake already had like a mysterious reputation, even before Champy became a thing. That's crazy. It's like it was just waiting for a monster story to happen. Speaking of which, didn't Samuel de Champlain, the guy the lake's named after, claim to have seen Champy himself back in 1609?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty common misunderstanding. You know that description you hear all the time about the 20-foot serpent, thick as a barrel with a head like a horse? Yeah, that's not actually in his journals. What he did see, though, was a bunch of huge garfish. Some of them were like 5 feet long.
5 feet. Whoa, that's a big fish. I can see how someone might mistake that for something a little more monstrous, especially, if the lighting was bad or the water was choppy.
Absolutely. Can you imagine this massive fish with a long snout and sharp teeth pops up next to your boat? It would definitely freak you out, especially back then, in the 1600s, when everybody believed in sea monsters and all sorts of crazy creatures.
Right, right. So maybe Champlain didn't see Champy, but maybe those garfish sightings kind of planted the seed for the legend. But then in 1819, things get really wild with that Cape Ann serpent sighting. Remember that one?
Yeah.
The captain claimed he saw this monster that was 187 feet long. It had a white star on its forehead, teeth and eyes like peeled onions, even a red belt around its neck. I mean, come on, that's a little over the top, don't you think?
Yeah, it does sound a little out there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it really shows you how powerful these stories are and how they shape what people believe. That crazy story, whether it was made up or just a total exaggeration, it really captured people's imaginations, poured fuel on the fire of the Champy legend.
It's like one crazy story leads to a ton more. People start seeing what they expect to see, or maybe they just add to their own stories to make them more exciting. And then just a few years later, in 1883, Sheriff Nathan H. Mooney had a much more believable encounter. He described Champy as being 25 to 30 feet long, and even said he saw white spots inside its mouth.
Sheriff Mooney's sighting was important because he was a respected figure in the community. It gave the Champy legend more credibility. And after his story got out, there was a huge increase in sightings. It was like everyone was suddenly primed to see the monster after someone they trusted said they saw it too.
It's interesting how one seemingly credible witness can change how people interpret things they see. And then, of course, you have good old P.T. Barnum getting in on the action. In 1873 and 1887, he offered rewards for capturing Champy, playing on the public's fascination with the unknown.
Oh, yeah, Barnum, he was a genius when it came to drumming up excitement. His interest in Champy shows how the legend could be used for entertainment and even profit. Makes you think, how much of the interest was genuine curiosity and how much was just hype? Like, everybody wanted to be a part of something sensational.
Like a real-life case of fake news, centuries before anyone ever used that term, right? But the real question is there any real evidence to support Champy's existence? Or is it all just storytelling and wishful thinking?
Well, there's that famous Mansi photograph from 1977. It seems to show a long neck and head sticking out of the water. People have been arguing about that one for ages.
Oh yeah, the Mansi photo. I've seen that one. It's pretty freaky looking. But I also remember hearing that there are some problems with it. Like, maybe it's not even real. What are the main reasons people don't believe it?
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely been picked apart over the years. One of the biggest issues is where it was supposedly taken. The water there is super shallow, only like 14 feet deep. It's hard to believe something that big could even swim there.
That's true. If it was a huge creature, wouldn't it need deeper water to move around? What else makes people doubt it?
Well, some people think it could just be a log or a weird-shaped tree trunk, especially with how the light reflects on the water. And there's also the problem of the missing negative and the exact location. Without that stuff, it's impossible to really know for sure what's going on in the picture. So it's just speculation.
So even if it looks kind of convincing, there's not enough proof, and there could be a simpler explanation. Makes sense. What about that video from 2005, the one those fishermen took, Dicka Fulter and Pete Baudet? Some people swear that one definitely shows Champy.
Yeah, the Fulter Baudet video, that one's interesting because it was actually analyzed by FBI analysts. They said it was totally real, not faked or anything.
Wait, the FBI thinks it's real. Does that mean we can finally say Champy exists? For sure.
Well, not so fast. The FBI said the video itself is real, but they couldn't actually tell what was in it. The analyst even said, I can't see an animal or any other object anywhere on the surface.
So we have a real video that might not even show Champy. It's like taking one step forward and then falling 2 steps back. Makes you wonder if we'll ever get a straight answer. What about those weird underwater sounds they recorded in 2003? Didn't some researchers find something unusual in those recordings?
Yeah, they did actually. They recorded these sounds that kind of sounded like a beluga whale or a dolphin, which is weird because neither of those live in Lake Champlain.
So if it wasn't a dolphin or a beluga, what could it have been?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Some people think it might be a type of echolocation. You know, the way some animals use sound waves to find their way around.
Echolocation, like how bats see in the dark. But I thought there weren't any animals in Lake Champlain that use echolocation.
Exactly. So those sounds are still a big mystery. Just another weird thing about the Champy legend. So we've got blurry pictures, a video that doesn't really show anything, and some strange sounds. Enough to make anyone think there's something weird down there.
Okay, let's pretend for a second that Champy is real. Like, really real. What kind of creature could it be? Do you think it could be a plesiosaur, like some people say?
The plesiosaur theory is popular, but there are a few issues. They were marine reptiles, from the ocean, and they died out millions of years ago. Lake Champlain's a freshwater lake, and it's way younger than that, geologically speaking.
So a prehistoric sea monster living in a lake for millions of years, that seems pretty far-fetched, doesn't it?
It does, and there are no fossils or anything to suggest they were ever even in this area. Some people say Champy could be a giant sturgeon or maybe a fish that mutated somehow. But again, there's no real proof for that either.
So if we're being honest with ourselves, there's no solid evidence that Champy's real. And even if it was, we have no idea what it could be. So after all this time, why do people still believe?
That's the thing about mysteries, right? Humans just love the unknown. And these lake monster stories, they're not unique to Champy. We have Nessie in Loch Ness, Ogopogo in Okanagan Lake, and tons of others all over the world. People love those stories because they make you wonder, like, what if there's something out there that we don't understand?
It's like those stories remind us that there are still places we haven't explored, things we haven't discovered. Even with all our technology and science, there's still room for magic and mystery. But has there been any new developments in the Champy search lately? Anything new to add to the mystery?
Well, there's that footage from Lucy and the Lake Monster, that movie that came out in 2024. When they were editing the film, they found this drone footage that seems to show something big swimming in Bulwaga Bay. And the weirdest part is the director himself doesn't even really believe in Champy, which makes it even more interesting. He gave the footage to some scientists to check out, so we'll see what they say.
So the mystery continues. Let's change gears a bit, though. Champy is not just about monster sightings, right? It's become this whole cultural phenomenon, especially here in the U.S. How has Champy affected the area?
Yeah, it really is amazing how, a mythical creature can become such a big part of a community.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Just look at Port Henry, New York. They've gone all in on Champy, haven't they? That giant Champy statue they have. And they even have Champ Day every August.
Exactly. They've made Champy into something they're proud of, and it brings in tourists, too. And you can't forget about the Vermont Lake Monsters baseball team. Having Champy as their mascot is such a good idea.
It's brilliant. It shows you how even a legend, whether it's true or not, can bring people together and even help the local economy. It's like Champy gave them this special identity, something different from everywhere else.
You see Champy everywhere you go, on souvenirs, in restaurants, even on signs for businesses. It's like a symbol of the area, like the mystery and excitement of Lake Champlain all rolled into one.
It's like Champy's become a part of their folklore,
Yeah.
moving into the whole community. But after all this talk about Champy,
Yeah.
where do we stand? Is it real? Is it just a case of mistaken identity, or is it all in our heads?
Well, the mystery's still unsolved. And maybe that's what makes it so interesting, Not knowing for sure keeps us curious, keeps us looking for answers, keeps the legend alive.
You're right. The possibility is what makes it so fun. So to everyone listening out there, here's something to think about. If you were going to go look for Champy yourself, what would you need to see to be convinced? What would you look for? How would you tackle this mystery?
Keep your mind open, pay attention, And who knows, maybe you'll see something amazing out there on Lake Champlain. After all, isn't that what draws us to these stories in the first place? The hope that there's still something out there just waiting to be discovered.
Well said. Thanks for diving into the mystery of Champy with us, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring.